What Japanese ceramics includes. Japanese ceramics, as used in this book, refer to ceramic traditions that developed within the Japanese archipelago and are embedded in local historical, social, and cultural contexts. This includes both long-established regional wares and later traditions that emerged through technological innovation, cultural exchange, or changing patterns of use. The term does not imply stylistic uniformity, but rather a shared geographic and cultural framework within which diverse practices evolved. The scope of Japanese ceramics encompasses earthenware, stoneware, and porcelain traditions, regardless of whether their primary function was utilitarian, ritual, or artistic. Functional categories include domestic vessels such as bowls, plates, jars, and cooking wares, as well as containers for storage, transport, and commerce. At the same time, many ceramic traditions are closely associated with specific cultural practices, most notably tea culture, where vessels were produced not for everyday use, but for highly codified ceremonial contexts. Also included are architectural and ritual ceramics, such as roof tiles, shrine and temple fittings, and objects produced for religious or commemorative purposes. In later periods, particularly from the modern era onward, the definition expands to encompass studio ceramics, where individual makers engaged with historical techniques while producing works intended for exhibition or artistic expression rather than routine use. This book does not include non-ceramic materials such as lacquerware, metalwork, or glass, even when these appear alongside ceramics in historical contexts. Imported ceramics are discussed only insofar as they directly influenced the development of Japanese traditions. The focus remains on ceramic practices that were produced, adapted, and sustained within Japan, forming identifiable traditions with continuity over time. Earthenware, stoneware, and porcelain traditions. Japanese ceramic traditions can be broadly distinguished by the type of ceramic body used, and the temperatures at which vessels are fired. Earthenware, stoneware, and porcelain represent three overlapping but technically distinct categories that provide a useful framework for understanding differences in material behavior, surface treatment, and historical development. Earthenware traditions are typically low-fired and porous, often relying on surface treatments such as slips or glazes to improve functionality. In Japan, earthenware has deep prehistoric roots, particularly in Jomon period ceramics, and continued to be produced for utilitarian purposes in later periods. These wares were commonly used for cooking, storage, and everyday household needs, especially in regions where higher temperature kiln technology was limited or unnecessary. Stoneware forms the backbone of many of Japan's most well-known regional ceramic traditions. Fired at higher temperatures, stoneware bodies become dense and durable, allowing for the development of natural ash effects, robust glazes, and complex surface textures. Wood-fired kilns, reduction atmospheres, and prolonged firings played a central role in shaping stoneware aesthetics, particularly in traditions associated with tea culture and regional folk kilns. Porcelain production emerged later and required access to refined raw materials, specialized kiln control, and advanced glazing techniques. Japanese porcelain traditions developed distinct centers of production, most notably in areas where suitable porcelain stone was available. Porcelain enabled thinner vessel walls, greater translucency, and detailed painted decoration, expanding the expressive range of Japanese ceramics while also facilitating large-scale domestic and export production. Glazed and unglazed surface practices. Japanese ceramic traditions include both glazed and unglazed approaches, each shaped by material availability, firing technology, and cultural preference. Rather than forming a strict division, glazing practices in Japan exist along a continuum, with many traditions combining natural surface effects with applied glazes in varying degrees. Unglazed traditions often rely on the inherent qualities of the clay body and the firing process to create visual and tactile interest. High-temperature wood-fired kilns can produce natural ash deposits, flashing, and surface vitrification that serve both functional and aesthetic purposes. In such wares, color variation, texture, and kiln marks are treated as integral features of the finished vessel. Unglazed ceramics have been particularly valued in contexts where material directness and process visibility are emphasized, including certain tea-related traditions. Glazed traditions make use of applied surface coatings to alter appearance, enhance functionality, or both. Ash, feldspathic, iron-rich, and later refined glaze formulations allowed potters to control color, gloss, and surface behavior more precisely. Glazing expanded the functional range of ceramics by reducing porosity and increasing resistance to liquids, while also opening new aesthetic possibilities through color variation, pooling, and interaction with the underlying clay body. Many Japanese ceramic traditions occupy a position between these two approaches. Thin glazes may be applied to stoneware bodies primarily to enhance durability while still allowing natural firing effects to remain visible. Conversely, glazes may be used selectively to accent specific areas of a vessel rather than fully covering its surface. This flexible attitude toward glazing reflects a broader Japanese ceramic sensibility, in which material, process, and use are balanced rather than rigidly categorized. Functional, ritual, and expressive ceramic forms. Japanese ceramics have historically been shaped by their intended use, with distinctions often drawn between functional wares produced for everyday life and ceramics created for sculptural, ritual, or symbolic purposes. While these categories provide a helpful analytical framework, they frequently overlap in practice, as objects originally designed for use may acquire ceremonial or aesthetic significance over time. Functional wares form the foundation of most regional ceramic traditions. These include vessels for cooking, storage, serving, and daily consumption, produced in large quantities and adapted to local lifestyles, climates, and food cultures. Practical considerations such as durability, heat resistance, and ease of handling played a central role in shaping their forms and surface treatments. Over generations, these utilitarian objects developed regionally distinctive characteristics that came to be valued not only for their usefulness, but also for their visual and tactile qualities. Ceramics created for ritual, ceremonial, or sculptural contexts often place greater emphasis on symbolic meaning, formal restraint, or expressive intent. Tea utensils, religious implements, commemorative objects, and architectural ceramics were frequently produced within highly codified traditions that dictated acceptable forms, materials, and surface treatments. In these contexts, subtle variation and controlled irregularity could carry significant cultural meaning, and the act of making itself was often closely tied to ritual practice. The boundary between functional and non-functional ceramics is therefore not fixed. Tea bowls, for example, are functional vessels by definition, yet their evaluation is deeply aesthetic and ritualized. Similarly, objects initially produced for everyday use may later be recontextualized as artworks or cultural artifacts. This fluidity of function is a defining feature of Japanese ceramics, and is essential for understanding how ceramic objects operate simultaneously as tools, symbols, and carriers of cultural value.